So welcome to Boise Entrepreneur Week's panel, Get Financing, Prove Your Concept, Gain a Following by Crowdfunding. Thanks for joining us. My name is Gina Basir, and I'm the manager of the Zions Bank Business Resource Center in Idaho. The BRC helps aspiring, new, and existing entrepreneurs start, grow, and fund their businesses. We do that by providing education, tools, resources, and hands-on guidance that transfer knowledge to help entrepreneurs build confidence and greater capacity for success. And these services are free to the public, regardless of where you bank. With me today are Kathleen Minogue, founder and CEO of Crowdfund Better, Angie Marianthi, founder and CEO of Boise Music Lessons, and Mead, founder of Hempitecture Inc. Kathleen, would you please start off by telling us in a sentence or two what Crowdfund Better does, who you serve, and where you're located, and then can you follow that with a brief crowdfunding overview?
Sure. Thanks so much, Gina. Crowdfund Better is the leading crowdfunding education organization in the US. We were founded in 2012. We're a Boise-based company, and we focus on helping entrepreneurs, small businesses, and nonprofits access this new alternate capital tool in order to unlock the financial and creative capital of their networks. In a nutshell, crowdfunding is when a large number of people share small amounts of their social, creative, and financial capital via the internet and within a limited time window. And while it was a niche sector for a long time, in 2012, crowdfunding raised over $1 billion in small business funding in the US, and that's not including nonprofit campaigns or GoFundMe campaigns. There's 4 main types of crowdfunding. We have donation, and that's for individuals and 501c3 nonprofits. We have crowd lending via platforms like Kiva. Fiddler's Green in Boise used that type of crowdfunding. We have rewards crowdfunding, and this is the pre-sale of products and services or the exchange of business and services for contributions. Proof Eyewear used this type of crowdfunding 5 times to do product launch, and I'm looking forward to hearing Angie talk about her experience with rewards crowdfunding a little bit later. And finally, we have investment crowdfunding. This is the new kid on the block. It was made legal by the Jobs Act in 2012, and it allows businesses to accept investors for either equity or debt funding in the same way, small amounts of investment from a large number of people. And I'm excited to hear what Mead has to say about his experience a little later on.
Kathleen, thanks so much. I really appreciate that overview, and then also helping us set the stage for our discussion with Angie and Maddie about their crowdfunding experiences. So Angie, let's start with you. Your business name describes what you do and where you're located. Can you tell us in a sentence or two how you deliver your lessons and to whom?
Sure, absolutely. So Boise Music Lessons is a multi-instrumental music studio where we teach adults, teens, and tweens how to play contemporary popular songs with their family and friends. We think that anyone, regardless of their age, experience, or perceived talent, can play music, and we celebrate all stages of the learning process and get people playing together right from the very beginning of their learning.
Great. Someday I may have the courage to do such a thing. I'm not a very musically talented person.
There's no such thing as musical talent. It's just a hobby.
There we go. So I love the philosophy that you have as a business and the sense of community that you build. And I just have to give you a shout out for the numerous times and creative ways your business has adapted during the pandemic to remain relevant. So kudos to you on that. So I'm going to start with a question here. How did you come to crowdfunding, and what was your crowdfunding goal?
I came to crowdfunding kind of on accident. I volunteer at the Boise Acupuncture Co-op as their board president, and they are preparing to do a capital campaign to buy a building. And I saw through the Zions Bank newsletter that you were doing a crowdfunding workshop with Crowdfund Better. And I went as a representative from the nonprofit to go see what the scoop was with crowdfunding. And I thought that sounds challenging, like you really have to do some work, and I don't ever want to do that. And then fast forward, about 10 months of the pandemic later, and Gina says, you should really think about crowdfunding to take your business to the next level, because we were at a point, we've grown a lot and we've kind of outgrown our space. And we also needed to make some big changes to our studio so we could keep teaching people safely. So we wanted to build an outdoor classroom where we could host our lessons, classes, and events. So we launched a crowdfunding campaign for $20,000 to build that.
Fantastic. And I know you met your goal, or you surpassed your goal, I think.
Yeah.
You blew past it a little bit. So
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So thanks for sharing your the decision-making process with us. Maddie, let's move on to you. Briefly tell us what Hempitecture does, who your customers are, and where you're based, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure thing. Well, first off, Gina, I think I might have to join you with one of Angie's classes, because I don't have a musical bone in my body, but I would love to be able to play a song or two. So I think that sounds like a great mission you have there, Angie. Yeah, my name is Maddie Mead. I'm the founder and CEO of Hempitecture. And at Hempitecture, we like to say we specialize in the most sustainable building materials on the planet. We're based in Ketchum, Idaho, or probably more commonly known as the Sun Valley area. Yet we're actually opening a manufacturing facility in the Magic Valley. Jerome, Idaho is going to be our new home of our manufacturing campus.
Fantastic. And same question to you. So how did you come to crowdfunding, and what was your crowdfunding goal? You're in process as far as I know. So help us understand that.
Yeah, so our crowdfunding, our crowdfunding campaign, which is being hosted on WeFunder, is still in process. And the story of how we got there is a bit roundabout, but really it goes back to very early on in the founding years of Hempitecture. We actually launched a Kickstarter campaign. And this Kickstarter campaign was for $25,000. We were amazed at the just outpouring of support, both friends, family, and people we didn't even know who were supporting our business because they believed in our mission to build healthier, more high-performing homes. So as our business grew and progressed, and we got to the point of considering a seed round of fundraising, that is our first round of really giving out equity for within our company, we looked at a few different avenues, and one of which was the sort of traditional VC world. And we did have conversations with VCs, but there was a very pivotal moment where we decided to go the regulation crowdfunding route, or Reg CF for short. And that was when, I believe it was February or January of 2021, when the SEC changed the crowdfunding cap from around 1.3 million to $5 million. That was when we were actually seeking funding, and that really absolved any sort of concern that we had about Reg CF, because that limitation would have only taken care of a part of our round. So when they changed that restriction to 5 million, we said, let's pick a crowdfunding campaign and or platform and move towards it with a campaign. We initially started out with a goal of 2.5 million, and to date we've raised, or I should say have reserved, about $3.6 million in our round.
That's a big raise. So I would imagine that's a lot of work, and it sounds like going this crowdfunding route the second time around. So it's not your first rodeo in this particular way of generating capital for your business.
If it's our second rodeo, the first rodeo was a bit more manageable. This one has been a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of pieces to pull together. It's been an exciting process to see come alive and actually see sort of the fruits of your labor and bearing it all out there, receive this sort of investment and receive this interest. So we feel very fortunate for having chosen the crowdfunding avenue and also to have surpassed our goal.
That's fantastic. So you talk about the effort there. Can you go into a little bit about what is involved in that, and then what are you getting out of it? I mean, obviously financial things you get out of it too, but what are the non-financial benefits?
Sure. So in terms of the effort, first and foremost, I like to say, well, if you'd ask my friends, they'd say, I love a good story. I love telling stories. And so starting with a compelling story for a crowdfunding campaign is a great place to begin. And with our crowdfunding campaign, we really wanted to create this narrative of our building materials begin with the seed. And that is a seed that's planted in the ground that then is turned into a sustainable, high-performing product. So that narrative is really woven throughout our crowdfunding campaign and is incorporated into the video that we included in our campaign. So there's a few different elements that you have to pull together for a crowdfunding campaign, one of which is a video, one of which is the sort of narrative, the other of which is the financials, and then, of course, a financial audit. Now, some of these things are a lot easier than others. I'd say for us, the financial audit has been difficult. It's taken longer than we would have anticipated, but these are necessary elements for investors to have faith in your campaign.
Yeah, so I would imagine that there have been some non-financial benefits. You probably have to put a sort of a media effort into this type of thing where you're driving people to the site to make the donations, raising awareness. So this must have brought your profile up a bit, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would say that with our crowdfunding campaign, we really did try and orchestrate outside media to kind of coincide with our campaign. So we released a number of press releases that increased awareness of our mission and what we were doing. And we really had a very defined end goal for our investors and future investors to know that they're investing in. And for us, that was a U.S. manufacturing facility based right here in Idaho. So that monetary benefit, the people that were putting money in know that what they're getting out of this is U.S. manufacturing, job creation in Idaho. So I think that also ties into creating that narrative and the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great story when you think of, the local manufacturing or Idaho manufacturing along with, comparing that side by side with the extreme weather events that we've been experiencing and how your product is part of the solution in terms of mitigating or slowing global warming. And so I think that that's a fabulous model, and I can see how that would be a really amazing story. So let's move on to Angie. Let's hear about what kind of effort you put in to your crowdfunding campaign and what are you, getting out of it even still after it has closed?
Yeah, the effort that we put into our crowdfunding campaign, I would say would be the equivalent to having a part-time job for 6 months. You have to, everything that Maddie said, except the financial audit for us applies. So, you have to create your narrative, your video, you have to really work your network and go through all these steps. And we were really fortunate to have it all laid out for us through Crowdfund Better and Crowdfund Idaho. So we didn't have to do any of the guesswork, but it was, definitely a job that we had to work at for an extended period of time. And then we had to, on the back end, we had to deliver the rewards when everything was complete. So I feel like it was kind of just a direct money for our time spent in that regards. However, the non-monetary benefits that we gained from the experience far exceeded the time that we put in. So for us, we were very happy to be able to build our classroom this summer, but even happier to have all of the wonderful things happen around the experience. So we got a lot of media attention from it. We were able to identify who our supporters are in our community. We helped define our ideal clients more, and we were able to attract them through the media attention. So we had new people sign up for our program, and we have a wait list for next year. So it's been a really amazing experience in that regard, just to feel the community support above everything else.
Right, and not surprising because you really create community. You use music as a way to create community, and the community really came around for you during this. So what was the time frame? So how many weeks or likely months did this take up your time?
So I think I talked to you about it in probably November of 2020, and then I applied for Crowdfund Better and filled out all their intake stuff. And then I think we got rolling in late December, I want to say, and then really, really hit the ground running in January. And we launched our campaign in late April, and it ran for a month. And we're still, completing some of the the building and issuing some of the rewards as those come available.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. So a good, I don't know, what is that? 6 months? A good
I would
5
say,
months? 6 months?
yeah, I would say 6 months of solid work.
Okay. At a part-time job. So
yeah, not counting the rewards redemptions.
Right.
I feel like
right.
that's a little bit more internal for our music program where people can take their classes now and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah,
But
so it's fulfillment, right?
Yes.
Fulfillment of your rewards. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Maddie, what about you? How long, have you had in terms of lead time to prepare to launch your campaign, and when is it expected to close and so forth?
Well, if I had $1 for every time we had a date on the calendar that said our crowdfunding is launching this date, and then we moved it forward, I probably would have closed the campaign myself. We ended up spending a lot of time on the back end to get this ready. And I think that's a really important point to stress, is that take your time with it and make sure that the product that you have that you're putting out there really reflects your business and where you're going and the vision that you want the public to see. Because for us, this crowdfunding page has been a place where we send prospective customers or other people who are interested in our business just to see, hey, this is the vision clearly laid out in one place. And you can see that other people are buying into this vision. But I believe we started probably considering this end of 2020. We thought maybe March 15th we would launch. Then it was April 15th. And I believe ultimately it was June 1st that we did launch our campaign. And by July 1st, we had actually exceeded our goal, which we did not anticipate happening. And if I had a crystal ball, I don't think my crystal ball would have said that either. So it was kind of surprising for us, but a good affirmation. However, there was a lot of other things that were happening in the background, legal work and the financial audit. And the financial audit, which is currently ongoing, is the biggest thing that I think we underestimated. I would suggest to folks that are out there that are considering a Reg CF raise, work on getting your financial audit going and moving forward ahead of your launch date. But there is, with some platforms, a little bit of a chicken and the egg thing. At least on our platform, we had to raise a certain amount of money before we could file a certain form that allowed us to then close our round. But we're now probably on pace to closing our round mid-October, end of October. So we're really, really looking forward to that.
I bet. I would hope that there's a big party in the making, right? That you put as much energy into that as you did.
Now that you remind me, I'll put a note down. I need to start planning the party.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's a lot. And who were the business professionals you brought in? So lawyers, I would imagine, CPAs. Who are the folks that were part of your team in doing this?
Early on, the first professional that we brought in was a professional videographer. Now, I don't think it's a requirement for a Reg CF to have a super polished, highly professionally edited video. For us, we had a story that we wanted to tell, and we'd had a videographer that we'd worked with in the past who had B-roll, and B-roll is just extra footage from other things that he'd shot for us, that he could weave together this story for us. And so we hired a videographer early on. We then hired an accounting firm to review all of our books and make sure that we were totally ready to go. Then we hired an auditing firm. We're actually now an auditing firm number 2 because unfortunately there was a family emergency with our first auditor. So we were in the 9th inning and he had to step down from his role. So we hired a new auditor. And so there was a bit of a delay. And that's another point that I would emphasize is plan for things to take twice as long, 3 times as long as you think. And I think that goes for a lot of things in business and a startup. Everything takes a little bit longer than you think it might take. So planning makes perfect.
Yeah, and I think an organization like Kathleen Minogue's, Crowdfund Better, with people who've had multiple crowdfunding campaigns under their belt can probably help guide people in terms of how do you set up your schedule? How do you back into the date? So Maddie, you've provided, just sort of throughout the conversation we've had with you, some good advice for those who are considering crowdfunding. Is there anything else you'd like to add? And, we're happy to hear about your war stories as far as, God, I wouldn't do that again, because people learn from that just as much from all the good things that you do,
Well, Gina, I think one of the exciting things for me and just participating on this panel and having this conversation with you is that you're from Zions Bank. And I think that it is important that people in the banking world, the investing world, they come to terms with Reg CF because it is not going away. In fact, it's going the opposite. It's expanding. It went from 1.3 million cap to 5 million cap. Who knows where it could go from there? And we have had serious difficulty with working with institutional lenders who don't understand what a Reg CF is. And, they say, are you going to have 2,000 people on your cap table now? Or it has been a challenge to reconcile, I'd say, the more sort of traditional world with this sort of new opportunity and this new strategy for startups to raise money. And then the other thing that I want to emphasize is one thing that is important to me, and I think important to us, is there is an equity component to a Reg CF round. In the past, traditionally, you could only get investment from the ultra wealthy or from those who had access to deal flow. In our opinion, Reg CF democratizes deal flow. It allows accredited and unaccredited investors alike to share in the upside as well as the potential risk or downside of a startup. And that, to me, is equity. That creates opportunity for people where they might not have had access to that opportunity in the past. So whenever we have a conversation with the VC or an impact fund that suggests, I'm not sure we can reconcile our views or our approach with your Reg CF, and you're going to ask questions about our diversity and inclusion, that's a question that you can put back in their court. Well, why should investing in startups and companies only be reserved for people like you? It should be for everyone.
Yeah, that's in direct conflict. I hadn't really thought about that piece of it. And there obviously has been so much focus on DEI this year, following the George Floyd situation. And so those are definitely at odds. So, all of you on the call are pioneering new territory. And I'm doing my little part over here in the Business Resource Center in a relatively large financial institution. And so we are taking a look at that. And I really appreciate you bringing that point up because that is a big one. So Angie, moving on to you, what advice would you have for those considering crowdfunding?
I would say take it seriously. It's not like just you have an emergency and you throw up a GoFundMe and ask for money. I think that some people perceive it maybe as that if they're not exposed to it a lot. It is like having a part-time job and you have to dedicate a portion of your week to staying on top of it. I would also recommend that you have a good team behind you. Like, again, I'm just going to say, Kathleen, it was fantastic working with you. We would never have known where to start without Crowdfund Better and Crowdfund Idaho. And also, speaking of teams, we actually hired an assistant to help us throughout the process. Just be ready to really invest time and energy and even a little bit of your own capital in your fundraising campaign. I would also say, again, Kathleen, you told me 1,000 times, you told me at the very first workshop, your network is your most important thing when it comes to crowdfunding. And I really thought that we would have a lot of people pop up just seeing our posts and seeing the media that would want to participate in our campaign, but I only didn't know one person who donated, and that was very surprising to me. So, 99.9% of our donations, or I guess our contributions, came from people that we actually know in real life. So I would say if you are thinking even a tiny bit about crowdfunding, to start reaching out to people on your contact list now and just making conversation and seeing how their business and their life is going, and just really start networking. And I think that goes just for any small business owner too. You really want to be connected to what other people have going on, and in turn they'll want to be connected to what you have. So start networking before you even start your campaign, for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. Great advice from both of you. So Kathleen, as a nationally recognized expert in the crowdfunding field, what would you add? And I think it's interesting for you to address how from the extremes that we're dealing with here in terms of Boise Music Lesson having a $20,000 raise, and then Maddie, Mead, and Hempitecture working on a multi-million-dollar kind of raise. So, how might those be different? And then just, any kind of parting thoughts that you have on this.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's been great to hear both Angie and Maddie talk about their experience. And I think the thing that I would say is educate yourself first. Crowdfunding is a really big space now, right? Maddie's talking about new regulations that just now allow for up to $5 million raises, and he needs an audit for that. But if you're only raising up to $1 million with Reg CF, it's a different process. So there's a whole education. If you don't want to give away equity, there are debt forms in investment crowdfunding. So for me and for Crowdfund Better, it's all about finding the fit in crowdfunding for your business. So it's not a one size fits all, and working and talking to people. And, one of the things I would recommend is go look at Angie's campaign, go look at Maddie's campaign. The cheapest education and consulting you can get in crowdfunding is to look at people who have been successful and learn from what they have done. So take that time and do your research. Angie's obviously an amazing student because I would say network. Creating the campaign page takes time, writing the story. But the thing that takes the most time, if you don't already have those wheels under the bus, is putting a foundation, a structure in place for reaching your network and reaching beyond your network. So take the time. And those are assets that are valuable no matter whether you crowdfund or don't crowdfund. They're valuable after you crowdfund. And I have clients who generate more business just during the process from doing these exercises. And then I'll just leave on, the state of Idaho is super lucky. Crowdfund Better has launched an initiative. It's the first in the nation. So any resident of Idaho can get crowdfunding education for free through the Crowdfund Idaho initiative. So use this tool and educate yourself so that you can make a great choice and have this new tool in your toolkit.
Fantastic. And where would people find that information, Kathleen?
They go to crowdfundidaho.com and they can read what's there, fill out the application, and get started.
Fantastic. So thanks to all the panelists for sharing their stories and best practices. And thanks to those of you who joined us today. Please be assured to attend the next session at 1 o'clock on intellectual property and join us on Slack for 15 minutes of Q&A.